Well, hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. So, there's a topic that was on my mind that I decided to make a discussion video about. So, it's not the heat, it's the economy. So, as you most likely know, the weather is a bit of a hot topic these days, pun intended. Um, the whole climate change thing became such a heavy part of the discussions. I made a video not that long ago called "The Weather Isn't Small Talk Anymore," basically talking about how several years ago, like quite a while back, it was considered like boring small talk to mention the weather. Now it's like, it's a big thing that everybody seems to want to talk about, and you actually surprisingly end up learning a lot about people through speaking of the weather, because they've infused all of their philosophy in life into it in a lot of ways, and I'm guilty of that too, me included. This is a clear sign that I've made 2 discussion videos about it. But so, and I'm not here, I don't want to talk politics and division of the politics of the situation, or who's on the right side and who's on the wrong side and all of that. It's not what this is about. It's more of just an observation that I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well. Um, so I believe that climate change is real. I'm not one of the absolute deniers of it that think that it's not true at all and it's all just a big scheme, whatnot. Like it's definitely real. All the science points to it being real, and you don't have to be some hardcore scientists or anything like that to see it. Um, it's there. It's pretty straightforward and logical. But I don't think it's as bad as it's perceived, or even as bad as it feels. And what I'm going to say is, I think it's the economy makes you feel the heat more. That might not make sense right away, but I'm going to explain this out as best I can. So, I don't think, it might be slightly hotter, but I don't think it's that much hotter than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. It could be very slightly warmer, but I don't think it's that much. But if you were alive that long ago and you remember those times, the economy was, at least around here, it could be different all over the place, but the economy was relatively well. People seemed to be doing not too bad for themselves, and people were, their work schedules were a lot more easier to be tailor-made to their lifestyle and the things that they needed to do and get done and that were important to them, and all that sort of stuff. And as you most likely know and can tell, the economy is really bad right now. Inflation's very high. The workforce, the work system is very disorganized and all over the place, and going through all of these, I wouldn't say unprecedented, because there's been lots of other chapters like this in history, but very unusual and sometimes unreasonable forms of running things in order to make it work as best they can, because it's a very chaotic time right now, and everybody's kind of caught in the middle of all that. So, when things are well, the economy is well, you've got some decent money on you, your schedule, it conforms to your lifestyle and what you need to do, and a lot of that sort of stress is not upon you so much. Then you're not so stressed out, you're not so wound up all the time. So therefore, a hot day or the heat doesn't affect you as much. You have more time to sort of customize your lifestyle to accommodate it. You can take the time to make sure that you have all your fluids lined up properly. You can take a substantial amount of time to spend in the shade. You know, you can go down to the ocean or the lake or the creek and cool off and go for a swim, and you know, keep yourself cool that way. You can go to the pool, whatever you need to do, and still manage to relatively easily accommodate your other obligations through your work and the other people in your life, and just any sort of obligations that involve other people than yourself and other things besides yourself, without it being this big hustle, this big high-strung hustle all the time. And I think that the reason that everybody's talking about the weather and everybody's scared of the heat is because the economy is in such a place that everybody's living their life that sort of way. And so therefore it makes the heat, you know, when you're that stressed out and you can't customize very little things in your life you can customize to accommodate for your needs, then you know, your body's already heating up at that point because you're so high strung, and then you throw in a really hot, you know, 28, 32 degrees day on top of that, and then that'll just hit you like a ton of bricks, way harder than it would if your lifestyle was more accommodated to your needs. And that's the same with the cold weather and the rain and the snow and you name it in the winter time. You know, if your schedule's customized and you have your stuff, you know, locked in properly for your needs, like I've repeated several times, then, you know, the road conditions aren't such a stress. The snow on the road and whether your vehicle can make it to this part of town or that part of town or not at these specific times isn't as big of a problem, because you know, you're not desperate for that little bit of money that you might get, because the economy's, well, you've already got some backup money on you, you know, right? And you've probably already had the privilege of adjusting and accommodating for those sort of situations long before any of your work or any of your obligations that you might have with other people. So therefore it's not as big of a deal. And you know, people used to love the snow in the winter time, and they'd be out tobogganing and they'd be sitting in their house watching the snow come down over the mountains and think it was just beautiful and whatnot. This isn't some doom and gloom thing. Like, I think that's still there, and people still do try to make some effort to be that way, but it takes a lot more effort when you know, it's going to hurt you to miss out on these obligations, because the benefits that come from it are a lot more important, because you don't have anything, you don't have any backup amenities to if you miss the things that you got going today, and you know, you're going to be under a lot more scrutiny and stress and pressure to at least pull off what you can, because the system, whether it's the work system or the societal system, the system with the people around you and whatnot, is so much more chaotic that you know, you not being able to do something or show up or pull the weight that you might be able to pull on other circumstances is there's a lot more, as I said, scrutiny and pressure put on you, and punishments thrown towards your way, because you know, it's a lot more, you know, you missing these things is a lot more, what would you call it, impactful to the problems at hand than it was at better economical times. And you know, in this is in no judgment towards, this video is in no judgment towards anybody, so I don't want what the next thing I'm going to say to be perceived in any sort of negative way. But when I'm out and about, the only people that you see that really aren't struggling in the heat, or really don't seem to be struggling that much in the cold or the snow either, are the very wealthy people. And, you know, this is no judgment on them. That's great for them. That however they came upon that, that's great for them. This isn't a judgment thing about people. Maybe they worked very, very hard and went through all sorts of hardships to get that. Maybe they didn't. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's, you know, I support anybody that's doing very well. And, you know, I think that's very good for them. No judgment whatsoever. But just as a philosophical point, the only people that you see that are not, you know, like as I said earlier, just feel like they're hit by a ton of bricks from these weather patterns that we're having, in the slight bit of temperature change from the bit of climate change that is actually real. Are the people that don't really have to worry as much about their obligations, because if they miss their obligations, they're economically sound anyway, so it doesn't really matter, and they don't have to hustle around for it as much, because they sort of they have the backing to not have to worry about it as much, and they can more easily customize their obligations to their needs, because they're not desperate for any little bit of reward that society might give them by just forcing themselves and hustling to show up to all these things that they might be obligated to show up to. That's something I've noticed anyway, and I could be very right, I could be very wrong, but I don't think I'm that wrong, because these are things that I'm noticing when I'm out and about, and, you know, have the boots on the ground out there in the affairs of society and observing things. And I just wanted to throw that out there. Maybe it'll give you some extra perspective on what's going on these days, and how you might be feeling about the weather and the stress levels in your life due to what you might have going on. So I hope you enjoyed that video. Hopefully it was informative, and I'd love to hear your comments about this in the section down below. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a good day.